From Elizabeth Chambers.
Thanks, Tony. Donald Trump has refused to apologise for the White House airing unverified claims that the former President Obama asked Britain's spy agency to monitor the Trump election campaign. Mr. Trump continues to stick by his assertion despite denials by a host of officials. At what point do we stop questioning the validity of what is being reported to us when the highest people in office will only ever acknowledge information that others claim to be fake?
Okay, our question was Elizabeth Chalmers, not Chambers. And Zed Seselja, I'll start with you. What do you think about this kind of thing happening in the White House?
Well, look, obviously it's a tricky thing, I guess, in some ways, as a minister in a government to be commenting on, because it is US domestic politics. But if I look at the general point, Elizabeth, there is no doubt that if a politician makes a claim and they can't back it up, over time they will lose credibility. And if you can't back up what you say, our credibility is very important to us. And we could argue that politicians right across the board have from time to time not lived up to that, and they certainly often get punished for that. But we need to value our credibility. And one of the things I think with the Trump phenomenon, when you look at it, is Donald Trump has certainly said very forcefully that he doesn't trust the media, and certainly many of his supporters don't trust the media. But I think the point...
Do you have any sympathy for him in that regard, Zed?
Well, as politicians, we have an interesting relationship with the media, of course. It's love-hate might be one way to describe it. We know how important it is to get the message out. It's important that we're scrutinised. Anyone who believes in democracy believes in a free and open press. We don't always like a lot of what they come up with, and sometimes, it's fair to say we think that they're biased or they're not being fair, or maybe they're not giving us an adequate go. But
so what do you think about a president who decides to avoid the media completely to get his message across? He uses Twitter in late-night Twitter frenzies, and he's able to speak directly to a certain group of American voters. He
is, and it's a very powerful medium at the moment, and that's been one of the things that social media has done. It's given politicians and others, celebrities, a direct line to people who want to follow them. So that's a very powerful position for them to be, and of course it was a part of his success was he was able to go directly. Now, but I think the point that Waddo was making in terms of where some of the mainstream media may have lost some credibility over time, and I've seen various surveys right around the world showing that confidence in media has dropped in recent years. In fact, I saw a survey recently that showed actually in Australia it had dropped and it's lower than in the United States. Obviously there'll be different indexes. But if the mainstream media doesn't have the trust, it of course will be much easier for a politician, particularly effective politician who has a very big following, to avoid them. But there's always going to be that tension, and Donald Trump and every other politician will be kept to account by the media. But whether he or others can go around them indefinitely, I guess remains to be seen.
Terry Butler.